Hi there, folks. Welcome to AV Rant Podcast. If you're seeing this, it's because you're watching the behind the scenes videos. So, this is the behind the scenes recording session, AV Rant Podcast, episode number 575. We might be talking about images. There might be some audio dropouts if that's what happens to our connection. You're not going to see stuff. It's not going to be polished at all because this is behind the scenes. We will post a complete 2-hour video version that's all edited together. So, with that, I'll switch over to Tom and we'll start the podcast.
All right. Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H. This is AV Rant. It's your home theater and AV questions answered. I got an OLED TV. That's the big news for me. 65-inch OLED B7P. And interestingly,
AV Rant dollars pay for that, Rob?
No, definitely not. Actually, I feel a little bit bad about it, but they really wanted to. This is kind of basically a Christmas present from my parents. They got their OLED. They're super duper happy with it. I have, of course, been helping out with other stuff around their house and that. So they're like, you know what? This is going to be a good. Now, there was a price cap on it. So I want to send a thanks to, there's a company called TVOutlet.ca. Okay. They're actually based in the same city where I live, so it was very convenient. I could actually just go to their warehouse. And this was during the week after Christmas. They had a sale going on. Now, first of all, they sell refurbished products. I'm a big fan of refurbished. Great way to get a deal. And they were doing no tax, free delivery during the week after Christmas, which we call Boxing Week here in Canada.
Okay.
It's supposed to be Boxing Day, but they've extended to a week. So I was like, okay, with that, and you know what my parents said, I'm like, all right, there you go. I can afford the 65-inch OLED that I really, really want. If tax had been involved, I wouldn't have been able to afford it. So yeah, really, really cool. Really, really happy with it. Yes, being refurbished, there is the tiniest little blemish on the very back where it looks like it was wall mounted at one point and then removed from the wall mount. I really don't care. The screen is perfect. There's no dead pixels. There's no stuck pixels. I thought there was one stuck pixel, but then I blew on the screen and the little speck of dust that was making it shimmer like that went away. So very, very happy with the image. It's awesome.
That's good. Yeah. For those of you that are concerned about important things, Daisy is fine. I took her to the vet, and the vet said, this is a very healthy lizard. You do not have to worry. She's just cold.
Okay.
Basically. I mean, there's other possible things, but she went from eating a lot to not eating anything for about 4 days. Yeah. And then she went back to eating, but she's eating a lot less right now. So for whatever reason, she's changed her diet, but she seems to be self-regulating. She's still just fine. I am going to wait to bring her back on the podcast so she gets a little bit bigger. I've been told by the vet I'm not supposed to keep her out all night.
Right.
The baby.
And lizards do tend to like it warmer than us humans.
That's true. But basically we're in the range of what they say the house should be. And if it does get cold in the house, the heating vent will actually be blowing directly towards her enclosure. Okay. So she should be getting the heat fairly early in the heating of the house process. So she's fine. So we are starting the podcast late today. We are also starting it 2 days later than we're supposed to. The first day late was because of Rob, and that's fine because sometimes it takes longer to get these questions together than we think. The second time was because you ever have that thing happen where you're talking to two people about doing two things at the exact same time, and it never occurs to you that that's not going to work? That was me yesterday. I was like, my wife was out of town. Okay. My youngest son, who's 8 years old, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't have any hobbies. He doesn't have any musical instruments he plays. He doesn't play any sports, really. I mean, he does, but he does all of them. So there's nothing it's not like we need to go out there and buy him some really expensive golf clubs because he's a golfer, or in brand new bats or, pads if he was playing, baseball
or hockey or something.
Yeah. So we didn't really have anything to give him for Christmas. So she's like, I want to give him experiences. All the other boys have done stuff and he's never done it. So we're going to give him experiences. Well, if you ever seen a little 8-year-old boy's eyes light up at a gift certificate to go someplace, then you are the only person who's ever seen that, because my son was like, this is the worst Christmas ever. But my wife took him yesterday to Disney World for the whole day. So actually, it was today, but she left last night. She left right after work and drove to Orlando, stayed the night there with all day today, and she just got home an hour ago, a little bit less than an hour ago. So it's he's had a huge full day. But last night I was like, I rolled in the house at like 8:45. The whole house is destroyed. Because I got two boys and we haven't been home, and we had dinner and everything, and there's like a pile of laundry so big that you can't see the couch underneath it, and I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this podcast tonight. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't sit down after all that till like 11:15. I was like, I don't know what. But when I was texting you, I was like, oh yeah, the podcast. Totally. I got nothing to do tonight. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna do nothing. Right. My wife's like, oh, don't forget, you got the laundry and you gotta do this, gotta do that. Oh yeah, I'll do that. I got playing time. I got nothing to do tonight. So we skipped yesterday because I'm an idiot. Today we're a little bit late because we have I have Wednesday commitments that don't end until 9 p.m. and it just takes me a while to set up. So let's get started with this. Sorry about all that preamble. I did watch It the other day.
Okay.
And for those of you that have heard that it's a great movie, it very well may be. I fell asleep. I
Still, the opening in that you probably saw, and that's good. The opening's good.
Yeah, the little boy and that stuff, and yeah, that was good. That was fine. I wasn't very scared. I've read the book. I kind of know what's going to happen. I wasn't scared. I don't know. Maybe
you have to be a little bit creeped out by clowns. If you're not a little bit creeped out by clowns, it's not going to be that scary to you. So,
I mean, I'm not creeped out by clowns, but I'm not particularly find them.
You're a little bit old to have that same kind of fear of clowns at this point. So
I actually have known 2 clowns. I've never seen them in their makeup, though, but I would like to. All right, this is AV Rant, the podcast that answers your home theater and AV questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You ask by emailing us at question@avrant.com. Come to www.avrant.com. Click on the leave us a comment there. Facebook.com/AVRant podcast, where we will definitely see your comment. YouTube.com/c/AVRant, where we will definitely almost certainly not see your comment. So maybe don't leave it there. Contact us directly, Rob at AVRant.com. His Twitter is at FirstReflect. I'm Tom at AVRant.com. My Twitter is at AVRant_Tom. And if you want to follow a Twitter account that does nothing but post this podcast, follow me. Because I've given up on Twitter. I don't have the time. We also have our producer, Austin, who helps put together our podcast questions and is making, which is certainly going to be a cinematic masterpiece of a video. I am going to text that boy sternly very soon that he needs to finish, because I'm ready. I'm out. I'm ready for him to be done with that. Austin, his Twitter's at. If you want to email him, just go question@AVRant. He'll see it. But his Twitter is at Austin TEN, Austin Pond. POND. He has his own podcast, We Watch Movies podcast, a podcast about clown hair.
Yep.
Just
wigs,
the hairs,
or the actual hair that the
there's like there's the big debate. There's a debate. I didn't know this, but do you use your real hair or the fake stuff? And there's people on both sides of this that are very, very angry about the whole thing. I have no idea where this comes from. I mean, this is a group of people who voluntarily traumatize children, which on a very real level I can get behind. I could support that. I'd pay for that.
I think the real hair would be scarier. That's
I kind of feel that way
certainly
too.
Going to be the case.
But, the people. Okay, so the debate is the people who put on the wigs are considered lazy. It's lazy, and the people who there's some people are like, well, I don't have the right hair for this. What else am I supposed to do? And they're like, well, that's no excuse. You just have to figure it out.
It's like the mall Santa Claus beard.
It is. Very much so. Very crazy. All right. We want to thank our listeners of the week. To become a listener of the week, you have to support the podcast in some way, and then let us know. One way you can support the podcast by going to www.avrant.com and click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link. This sends you to a PayPal donation site where you can plug in your PayPal account number, or you can use your credit card. PayPal takes care of all that. We never see those numbers. So if your numbers ever get leaked, it's from PayPal, not us. They do send us whatever monies you send us, so we put those into our coffers to help pay for apparently OLED TVs for Rob.
No, not a penny of AVRant money went to that.
But we want to thank 2 listeners this week. We have James and Luke, who both did that. So we want to thank James and Luke for donating to PayPal.
Yeah, James, Luke, thank you so much for those donations. We appreciate it.
To us through PayPal is what I meant to say. We also have a Patreon account, which is www.patreon.com/AVRant podcast. One word, I believe. Last week we had 51, and this week we also have 51 patrons who are supporting this podcast. But Rob M and Josh both let us know that they were some of our, and then one of us sent us a typo, which is my fault, and I have not yet fixed it yet. So Rob and Josh, thank you very much. I think it was Rob that said, maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, one of them said I haven't fixed the typo yet, but I will fix it. So thank you, Rob, Josh, and our other 49 patrons.
Yeah, thank you so much to our Patreon supporters. Really appreciate that. That's great. It's a monthly subscription, basically. So minimum is $1 a month that you can pledge, or pledge an amount more than $1 a month if you would like to. Thanks to Rob and Josh for letting us know that they are patrons over at Patreon.
Thank you. Ryan told SVS that he was going to be, well, this is another way to support the podcast. If you can't do it financially, do something. Wear a t-shirt or something. I don't care. If you do that, just let us know. So Ryan told SVS he was going to buy a second Klipsch 15-inch sub, but decided to ditch the Klipsch and go with the dual a PB16 Ultra subs instead, thanks to us. And Robert, that was Ryan. Robert emailed SVS to thank them for talking him into going for SP2000s over the SP1000s, and to let them know that we started him down his multiple subwoofer journey. He was amazed when he first tried a subwoofer crawl. He heard for himself how different the volume levels could be just by walking around his room. So now he's added multiple subs, a calibrated U-Mic 1, that's from Cross Spectrum Labs, a mini DSP, Room EQ Wizard, and a multi-sub optimizer software. Multi-sub software, I don't know what that is, which has corrected a big 60 hertz dip they used to have. It's like sorcery, he says. Jason granted our wish. He's installing hardwood, so he went to Soundproofing Company to buy their Serenity map to use as his underlayment. He told them that we sent him their way. And Steve, the geek on Twitter, wrote up his impressions of the newest KEF Q series speakers on this website, Next Gen Home Theater. He gave us a nice shout out. I didn't see that one.
Oh, okay.
So thank you, Steve, Jason, Robert, and Ryan.
Yeah, I'll do it reverse order. Ryan, Robert, Jason, Steve, thank you all so much for the support. Robert, I like that image of he's got his dual SB 2000 subs actually up on stands, so they're like the same height as his bookshelf speakers. So it's a very cool look. And yeah, since they're both up at the front of the room there, he was using some, playing around with the multi-sub optimizer software and Room EQ Wizard, get it all set up, but corrected things. So it's very cool to hear somebody enjoying that. Just before we move on, I wanted to have a request, which is that we do have our 2-hour videos on YouTube, and YouTube has changed some of their policies.
Yeah.
Now, we don't count on the monetization money coming in from YouTube, but if you do not have enough subscribers and enough views to qualify for their YouTube partnership program, some of the features get taken away from you.
That's true.
And at the moment, we don't have enough subscribers. We've got until February 20th to get up to 1,000 subscribers. Now, we have enough in the way of views. And right now, we're just shy of 600 subscribers.
So we got 400 subscribers. Okay.
I really don't know if we can do it, but it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to us on YouTube. There's no fee to do that. And you don't even have to watch us. We already have enough views from the subscribers and other people who might not even be subscribed already. We just need the subscriber number to get up to 1,000 so we can remain in the YouTube partnership program. I really hope we can do that. It's not going to make the videos go away, but it's going to make it more of a hassle. So yeah,
so it does make it so that they are they take away some of the features, like being able to upload and then time it so that it comes at a certain time. And there is some talk that YouTube will also not put you in search results.
That's right.
You're not there. So yeah, if you have a chance to go to YouTube, just hit subscribe on our channel. Costs you nothing. Never have to watch a video, and we don't care one way or the other. So
so it's a little bit of a plea from us for something that doesn't cost you anything besides a click, just to subscribe to us. It would really help.
All right, so CES has been going on, and we've got some news there. So Monoprice is refreshing their monolith amplifiers to include XLR inputs. So that's nice.
Yeah, so that'll be coming out end of this month, end of January. Their 2, 3, 5, 7 channel amplifiers in their monolith series. Now they're going to have XLR inputs, which was a wish that some people had.
Sony released their promised Dolby Vision firmware update, at least in North America, for their X1 Extreme TVs, but owners quickly discovered a big problem. While Dolby Vision worked for built-in streaming services like Netflix and Vudu, it did not work for external sources like the Apple TV 4K or Oppo Ultra HD Blu-ray player. That's stupid, but
Yes.
okay. Yeah. So Vincent Tiao
Tio.
From HGTV Test posted a video that explains the problem in excruciating detail.
Yeah.
I did not write that word, but I like saying it. But the bottom line is that further firmware updates for external players will be necessary in order to get everything working properly. So, we did ours, is what Sony says. We took care of all of our stuff.
Yeah, apparently there are different Dolby Vision profiles, and the Sony TVs were only capable of accepting like one out of the 3 different profiles, which is not the profile that external players send via HDMI. So now there has to be a whole thing to basically get the players to first convert into the one profile that the Sony TVs do understand, and then send that down the HDMI cable. So that's a bit of a thing, and unfortunately, it means you're not waiting for another firmware update for your Sony TV. It means you're waiting for an update for your Apple TV 4K or your Oppo Ultra HD Blu-ray player, or future other sources that will use Dolby Vision. Yeah.
Lovely.
Not great.
SVS announced their Prime wireless speakers and sound base, BASE, not BASS. They already have the BASS. They use DTS Play-Fi for whole house audio integration, but they also include multiple inputs on the back, plus Bluetooth and aptX. aptX is the way of streaming basically CD quality over Bluetooth. The Prime wireless speakers have 50 watts for each driver. It's one tweeter and one woofer, and that's built in. Well, the sound base provides 150 watts times 2 to power any speakers you like. Both have subwoofer output, and the internal DSP will automatically detect when the subwoofer is plugged in and apply crossover filters. No prices listed yet, though the speaker pair is expected to be between 500 and 800. They'll launch summer of 2018. So what is this base? Summer of 2018. The base is is like an external wireless amplifier thingy. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a 2-channel amp that can connect to sources. Either you plug sources in on the back, or it can connect wirelessly to sources, including DTS Play-Fi for whole house audio, and then you just plug in any pair of regular passive speakers. It has speaker binding posts, plus a subwoofer output. So it's a little 2-channel amp that sits there, kind of on your network, basically.
All right, well, that's cool, I guess. Yeah. All right, I like Play-Fi. I do. Yeah. It's one of my favorite ways. It's when it first came out, I was like, this is a little too easy to operate. I mean, you know what I mean? If you want to group speakers together, it's really easy. If you want to change the grouping, it's really easy. If you have multiple profiles, it's really easy. I was like, this is really easy. So I am a fan.
I guess that's why they liked it. The other thing they're doing is they were like, a lot of other wireless speakers, you're almost forced to use the app. There's like no other way to control it besides the app on your phone, which of course you can do. You can use the DTS Play-Fi app or control it over your web interface from your computer. But they're also going to put in just 6 preset buttons just on the front of the speaker, on the front of the thing. So, if Spotify, a certain playlist on Spotify is what you always listen to, you can just have that as one of the presets. You don't need to open anything. You just physically touch the speaker or physically touch the sound base. So that's a good idea.
Well, just open Spotify, or will it open a specific playlist on Spotify?
Well, it's 6 presets for like anything it can support. So,
okay. Yeah. Because my kids and I, so I've got Echo Dots all over the house now, and the kids have been using my Pandora. I've got like 32 stations on Pandora. Every time they find an artist they like, they make a new station for it, trying to listen to the specific song. I'm like, I gotta teach you guys how to listen to Spotify, but I don't want them on Spotify. They're already listening to inappropriate things as it is. But like, I'll tell Alexa to play. I'm sorry for that.
Activating.
Sorry about that. She doesn't. Is she done? Okay. Anyways, I'll tell her to play Pandora, thinking I'm going to get the last playlist I got, and then all of a sudden it's like Eminem radio. I'm like, who's listening to Eminem? And everybody's like, not me. Like, somebody's listening to Eminem. But anyways, Travis says, thanks for discussing the stereo listening mode crossover questions. He went to audiocheck.net as we suggested and used their frequency sweeps to confirm that he is indeed hearing a low frequency roll-off below his chosen for crossover point now. Since his PC sound card used to apply a brick wall filter, he didn't realize most receiver crossovers are only 12 dB per octave, as we discussed last week. He had expected a much more drastic reduction in output below the crossover frequency, but everything seems to line up with what we explained now. So he's glad there's nothing wrong with the setup or his receiver. It's always nice to have that confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Barry, the fellow with the unfortunate soffit covering a pipe in his basement, he wrote back to share some updates. He tore down the soffit. Nothing covering the pipe just yet. He's considering our drop ceiling idea, but it's already only 7 foot by 7.5 feet tall room, so he doesn't want it to feel too low or closed in. So he also went ahead with the false. I want to say, are you showing the picture with the?
I am showing the picture. Yeah.
Okay, that honestly, you're in the basement. There's a pipe up there. No big deal. I really feel like that soffit was ridiculous. Can we just say that it was ridiculous? And the pipe is considerably, just the exposed pipe is considerably less ridiculous.
Yeah, as long as there's no code against actually having that pipe exposed, like it's not even the worst thing. Just leaving it there.
Let me tell you what you do, Barry. This is what you do. Is your wife an artist? Or are you an artist? Are you artistic in any way, shape, or form? Paint that thing brown, and then across your ceiling, make it look like it's the branch of a tree.
It's just like a whole big mural.
Leaves are coming. I am telling you, leaves are coming out of this thing. People will be like, "You guys are so creative. How did you get this idea to put that pipe up there and make it look like a tree? Like we just wanted to be outside." You know, that's what I would do. I swear I would. I swear I would. I'd wrap it like it's brown construction paper and just make it look like a tree. Anyways, he went ahead with the false wall idea. He built a door in front of his existing door. Then he put another door to the side of those two doors so that he can access the space that is now behind his false wall. Wow, that's a big old false wall. That's kind of cool. I like that. All right, so he's got a false wall. He's got like a entryway now.
Kind of, yeah. So that I imagine that goes out to the garage or something originally. So when he comes in there, there's like a little airlock.
I was gonna say, I mean, this could be like where you force air into. So you know what I mean? So you're getting your air in here. So whatever. That's fine. Well, it actually, I mean, it came out pretty well. I like this. Yeah, it's got a little screens there.
So
that's good.
Acoustically transparent fabric that's covering that false wall, so his speakers can be hidden behind there, and he can just have his television poking through. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right, Derek. Heard listener Michael D asking for setup tips now that he has a new 4K HDR display and Atmos receiver. We didn't dig into the Comcast cable box settings, so he wanted to share that you need to go to device settings under video. You want to set it to the highest resolution possible because they tend to default to 720p output by itself. And under audio, you want to select expert mode, which allows the onboard streaming services and video on demand to send Atmos if the service is and content included. He also says that his new Xfinity XG1V4 set-top box is the only one that supports HDR output. So Comcast users might want to that for, say, the Olympics, which are supposed to include some HDR broadcast. I want to say I told you guys this, that my friends got Hulu, and when after the hurricane, they came over here and they watched Hulu. And you're not supposed to have multiple streams of Hulu going at the same time in two different houses, but don't tell Hulu because it's working. And I've been watching Hulu. I am looking forward to, because they got the Olympics channel. I've been watching curling. I'm watching speed skating, speed skating. I think it was speed skating, a little figure skating. It's great. I love it. I love the Olympics.
I look forward to the Olympics. I enjoy it a lot, especially the Winter Olympics being Canadian, because we actually have a chance at winning medals in the Winter Olympics.
I would think so, yeah. You guys are good. With
Russia not being allowed to compete this year, it's, definitely got a chance.
I know. I love curling so much. I do. It's just the most bizarre sport, like in the whole history of the sports.
They like their yelling.
Sweep!
But Derek, thank you for those tips, because I wouldn't have known that about Comcast. I don't even have the option of being a Comcast customer. But yeah, so the device settings, video, fairly self-explanatory, setting the output resolution, but the audio, knowing that you want to switch it to that expert mode if you have an external receiver. Good tip. Thank you.
Benjamin had a suggestion for Jason B, who's asking about replacing his Behringer iNuke amp for his DIY subwoofer because of a noisy cooling fan. Since Jason is obviously handy, Benjamin says it's not that difficult to replace the notoriously noisy Behringer cooling fans with much quieter computer case fans. So maybe just a mod instead of a replacement. Well, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I should have thought of that, but yeah, very nice idea. Thanks, Benjamin, for that suggestion.
I'm not even close to that handy. I will electrocute myself for sure. David on Facebook received his RBH A600 speakers in backer boxes. He discovered there was a ceiling joist right above one of his intended in-ceiling locations, but he overcame it all and had a successful installation in the end. So, yeah.
So he's got 6 in-ceiling speakers going on up there. He's only powering 4 of them right now. David, we would like to hear back from your experiments of which combinations of positions you like best.
We gave you homework, son. Dave on Facebook shared a video from the slow-mo guys that demonstrates the differences between sample and hold displays like LCDs and OLEDs versus scanning lines of old CRTs. I have not watched this yet, but I am looking forward to watching that.
It's actually a very good video, and it's entertaining. You know, they did it well. Yeah. And they're not like pretentious about it or anything. No. They just show you the stuff, but they're kind of humorous in the way that he talks and that. So, but yeah, I really liked. So I hadn't actually seen a CRT scanning line shot at that many frames a second. They shot it at I think it was 380,000 frames a second.
It's like,
so not only could you see that a CRT was like one scan line at a time, but you can actually see it being drawn from left to right, which was happening really, really fast. But they had the high-speed camera to do it. And then it was interesting. He got right up close with a macro lens at high shutter speed to a 4K resolution LCD TV, and it was really cool seeing each individual subpixel and then realizing that with these 10-bit displays that we have now, not only is each subpixel like an individual red, green, and blue, but each red, green, and blue is actually segmented so they have enough steps to give you 10-bit precision. You know, you need 1,024 steps. So there's actually individual segments within each red, green, and blue subpixel, and I hadn't actually seen that clearly before. So it's a cool video worth checking out. Thanks, Dave. All
right, AJ on Facebook declared that we are liars. He showed his wife the picture from the Denon AVR X 8500H manual with all the possible speaker locations, and she informed him that he would indeed be the single silhouette in that image if he ever tried that in their house. So there's not a reasonable number of speakers, despite what we wrote.
Yep. We titled the podcast A Reasonable Number of Speakers, and apparently we were wrong about that. I don't know. Perspective. That's all very tongue-in-cheek, of course.
You've got to ease her into that, dude. You can't go straight to the 32 speakers or whatever that is. You got to start off with 5.
The old boiling the frog slowly analogy.
That's right.
Slowly raise the temperature, one speaker at it at a time.
That's right. All right, let's get into these questions. We only got like an hour. I believe it or not, after this podcast is over, we'll be done at 11, and I will be. We got a question today about how to do the Hangouts.
Yes.
So maybe we should just go ahead and do that real quick.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So we record these. Generally speaking, it's not this week, but Mondays at 9. We start at 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Yes.
Whatever the Eastern time is in the United States, because that's what I live by. So 9 to 11 p.m. is when we record. After that, I edit the podcast and Rob's doing video stuff and we're talking. So we open it up to allow people to come in and we post that link on Facebook, right?
Yeah, on Facebook and on my Twitter account, which is at First Reflect, FIRSTREFLECT. So if you look at our Facebook page, facebook.com/AVRant Podcast, if you check our post there and or my Twitter account after we've finished recording, you'll see the link for our Hangout After Party posted there. That's
and what happens when you click on that is it'll take you to your internet browser, which will ask you if you want to join. And if you want to join, you have to say I agree to the terms of service or whatever it is. And then you join.
It's part of YouTube Live, Google Hangout.
Right. You don't have to have any special. You don't have to have a camera. You don't even have to have a microphone. I mean, you could just type at us, and that would be fine too. But most people have at least a microphone, and you can talk or whatever. And we just are hanging out. So if nobody shows up, Rob and I just do our work. We talk a little bit about what's going on in our lives, and then we leave. If somebody shows up, we'll talk to them. If they have a question, we'll answer it. And then we'll answer it again on the podcast because
Yep.
we're not going to give away, we're not going to pass up the opportunity to share more content with you guys. But that's how it happens. So you don't have to have any special equipment. It's not like a insiders club. You just have to be awake at 11 p.m. Eastern time and be near a computer and be watching our Facebook page
and look at Facebook or my Twitter. Yeah.
All right, Josh. Josh has encountered a group of people, mostly gamers, who insist that each source device needs to have its own customized video calibration settings. Therefore, they argue that you can't plug all of your sources into an AV receiver because then you only have one HDMI output going to your TV. So you only have one TV input that's being calibrated for all the sources. They want a separate calibration for each source, so they only want to plug directly into the TV's HDMI inputs. Josh can sort of understand that you might want to activate the low latency game mode for your game consoles, and maybe you want to use different picture mode for your movies and TVs. But other than that, he can't think of anything else that should need to be individually calibrated for each source. They should all have the same color, contrast, and brightness, right? What are our thoughts on all of this? Okay, there was a time when what they were saying is pretty correct. When you calibrate the TV itself.
Yes.
You just calibrate the TV. That's all you're doing. And then the sources that are coming in, if there's a problem with the color, it's not the TV. Now, the reality these days is that if you've bought a receiver in the last couple of years and then you didn't buy bottom of the line, most receivers midline and up will have video calibration options right there in the receiver.
Not all of them, though, and especially if you're going for a much like a real entry level one, it might not have any video processing at all. That's entirely possible.
So what these people are saying is patently incorrect in that you can calibrate through a receiver if you absolutely wanted to. The reality is most of the time this is an unnecessary thing to be concerned about. I have very rarely come across a time when there was a source that couldn't be changed at the source because of color or whatever. It's all
even game by game, especially a lot of games, like just for that one specific game, let you adjust the video and audio output settings. So
not only that, but some color and the brightness and the gamma and all that stuff can be changed right there within the game settings themselves.
Yeah, it's this is a little bit tough because so there's the one side of me that's going, okay, there is this group of people who don't completely understand that let's just say for movies that there actually is like a out and out correct calibration for movies.
Right.
Now, you're under no obligation to prefer what is strictly technically correct. If you prefer to have your colors boosted a little or the image a little bit brighter or dimmer or whatever, I mean, knock yourself out. You are allowed to do that with your TV. But there is actually a set technical, this is exactly how the TV should be calibrated for movies. And that more or less applies across all content. All content can say, here are the Rec 709 standard for HD TV. Here is the Rec 2020 standard for Ultra HD TV. And if you want to follow that, all of that stuff is outlined by the ITU and by SMPTE, and you can just follow those technical specifications and be spot on. Video game consoles are a little bit different in that they are putting out RGB like a computer. They're putting out an RGB signal, not a YCBCR signal like a video source, like your Blu-ray player or your cable box would be outputting. They can output YCBCR, but they're only doing so by taking their original RGB signal and converting it inside of themselves to YCBCR. It's a conversion that would be going on. Originally, the signal in there is just like a computer signal. It's a full RGB, and that can occasionally cause some issues. Sometimes people are outputting the full RGB, and that means that the black level is incorrect. If they had calibrated their television's input for their Blu-ray player, and then that same input is being used for a video game system that's outputting an RGB signal, the black level might be wrong. That is a possibility.
The game console.
Yeah.
You can
you
tell
should
it
change it inside the game console. That's right. And same thing for like if you just want to change a particular game, and for whatever reason that game doesn't let you change it itself, and let's say you do have a entry level AV receiver that doesn't let you change any of the calibration settings in the AV receiver per input, then an argument could be made that, well, maybe because I'm really into that game and I'm competitive in it and I have my settings that I want to use, and maybe they aren't even perfectly technically correct, but these are the settings I want to give me a slight advantage because I can see what's in the shadows or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that argument can be made. So I'm not going to say that they're completely wrong about this, because you're under no obligation to stay to the perfectly technically correct settings anyway.
Right.
And then even if that's what you want to do, there are some instances where it might be difficult to actually make that happen when every input or every source is sharing one input because it's all going through one switch or one AV receiver. So yeah, on a strictly technical level, I agree with you, Josh. This isn't the way it should be,
right.
But I can see their argument for why they might want to do it that way. I'm not going to say they're wrong to say that either. I know it's a wishy-washy answer, but what are our thoughts? That's my thoughts.
Yeah, my thoughts are they're 90% of the time, if not more, wrong.
Right.
They are right.
Yeah, where I will say I disagree are
the times that they would be right are such the exception that I really have. Example, my PS3, I was trying to play Netflix through it because I was sick of the sound issues I have with the Xbox One, and it was too dark. Now I know that someplace within the mirror that maze of menus that the PlayStation 3 has is a setting that I need to adjust in order for that not to be dark. But I don't want to have to do it, therefore I haven't done it. So, I mean, that's literally how lazy I have been about this. But I didn't think that what I need to do was plug directly into the TV.
Yeah, no, where I would disagree is I've seen some of these similar type of comment where someone has said something along the lines of everybody sees differently, so everybody's TV should be calibrated differently and every source should be calibrated differently. I'm like, no, that is not correct.
That's not right. Yeah.
There is an actual, like, this is exactly the way your TV ought to look.
Let's stop
if you want to go away from it.
Gamers,
okay.
I mean, gamers are awful people. Hey, they are awful.
Some of that Xbox Live stuff, man, oh man.
Hey, let's don't even get me started. Okay, Ian. First up, Ian's friend wants a new TV. He has a budget of $500 to $600. He likes something in the 50 to 60 inch range, and it would be nice for him to be as future proof as possible. What do we recommend?
Oh, I know.
I know that you know. I'll tell you what. Right now, like every time I walk into Sam's, there are Vizios lined up that were like last year's models or the year before that they're desperate to get rid of, and they are they are much cheaper than $500-600 for the M series. You may even be able to find the R series in there, but I don't know.
Definitely the E series.
Oh, definitely
100% the E series, but probably the M series. Yeah.
So I mean, if you can get a 2016. 20, you could definitely get it at that price, I would think, and that's pretty future proof. They have all the
Chromecast built in, Dolby Vision, 32 zones, full array local dimming. If you just want to go to Best Buy, you can get a 55-inch TCL P605. Now, some people know there's the P607, which is sold on Amazon, and the one at Best Buy is the P605, and the only difference is the remote. The TV is the same. They have different remotes, and they gave them different model numbers so that they wouldn't have to price match each other. But Best Buy is selling the P605 for $600, 55-inch. That's got Dolby Vision. That's got 72 zones of local dimming. That's got Roku built in. So yeah, Vizio M series, TCL P605 series from Best Buy. There's no reason to look at anything else. That's as future-proof as you can get. $600, 55 inches, ticks all the boxes.
Ian has some Klipsch R15PM computer speakers he's been happily using for about a year. He has them connected to his iMac via USB, and all of a sudden, they develop a noise floor, and not a normal sort of hiss. It's hard to describe. He says it sort of sounds digital in nature, and is unaffected by the volume dial on the speakers themselves or by the volume sitting on his computer. It's just a constant noise that's bothersome enough that he shuts his speakers off unless he really needs to hear something. Any ideas? That sounds like external interference is coming through the cabling.
It sounds like a cable issue. It does. Like that USB cable. It sounds like that's the issue.
First thing first, I would switch out that cable.
Yeah.
Just with another one.
Mm.
I would also look to see where your table is running exactly, and if you have moved it or put something else, like if there's like a high power cable, like just a power cable going on top of it.
Mm.
Um, for example, I mean, speaker wire by itself can be an antenna. There have been times when this happened a long time ago, but Gene back at Audioholics, he had some speakers down in his bedroom that were picking up the radio, and he couldn't
Hmm.
figure out what was going on. Like he could hear the radio in his bedroom, and what happened is they were not plugged into the receiver, so there were just these two wires that were just lying on the ground, and they started picking up, interference that way. So it can happen. It can
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, if you just need a replacement USB cable, I would suggest getting one that has the ferrite cores on them. That's that kind of bulky little cylinder that's sometimes near the connector that they put there. Because if this is any sort of interference issue or something like that, having those ferrite cores on the cable will help to mitigate that. So, like at Amazon or from Monoprice, you can get these use the plug A to plug B style of USB cable.
Right.
So it's like under $5. So if you don't already have a spare one lying around, that's not a huge investment. The other thing you could just try just to see if it is the current USB cable, since they have other input options on the back of these clip speakers, just switch over to a 3.5 millimeter stereo cable. Your what do you say? It's an iMac? I mean, it must have a
iMac.
headphone jack.
Who knows,
something.
dude? Or a dongle for it. Probably a dongle.
Yeah, right.
$55 dongle.
If it's just got a stereo analog output, just try plugging that in to see, because then that'll tell you, oh, it's not the speakers or the computer, it's the USB connection.
And it could be something wrong with the speakers too. We don't know for sure.
Right, but at least this will tell you if it's the cable, and they have an optical connection too. So I don't know if your iMac has an optical output, but that would electrically isolate. So if this is some sort of weird little ground loop issue or something, if you could connect them via the optical audio cable, that would electrically isolate them, and then that would eliminate that issue.
You can see if it's a ground loop just by if it's a laptop. The iMac is a lap. No, iMac's not.
No,
a laptop.
iMac's a desktop. Yeah,
desktop. Okay, I was going to say I used to have that problem with when we first started doing this podcast. My laptop, if I had my laptop plugged in while we were doing the podcast, I would get a noise floor on my recording. So he's also noticed some odd behavior with his Epson. Did I skip a question?
Nope, you're correct.
Okay. His Epson 8350 projector, when he's viewing a bright scene, it looks as though his brightness setting is being adjusted up and down, kind of a pumping of the image brightness. And the color temperature seems to change too. He does not have any sort of dynamic iris engaged, and the bulb has about 2,400 hours of use on it now. It's fairly minor. But just something that he started to notice. It's time to replace his bulb. Could it be something else? Dude, are you sure about the dynamic iris thing? Because that's
the 8350, as far as I know, doesn't even offer a dynamic iris.
This is a very strange thing if you don't have to, because that's exactly what it sounds like. I mean, could the bulb could be going, but
it could be.
I've never heard of that.
How long has it been since you've cleaned your air filter? I wonder, because he's saying it's only happening in bright scenes when it's going full bore. I wonder if it's overheating a little bit.
I need to check my air filter.
I mean, it's not a bad idea to check and clean your air filter anyway. So
yeah, it's been a while since I've changed I've checked mine too.
Yeah, 2,400 hours is I mean, your bulb, by all accounts, should be dimmer than when it was brand new. It's been happening gradually, so you might not have fully noticed it. But I mean, it absolutely ought to be dimmer than when it was brand new. Pumping of the up and down, though, that really makes me wonder about a heat issue.
All right.
Yeah.
Byron and his wife decided that they're going to orient their new theater room such that the fireplace will be on their left. So if you're on YouTube, you're going to see some images here. If you're on YouTube, I'll try to describe them to you as best I can. So no projector screen coming down in front of the fireplace, but they are still interested in a projection setup. So now it could just be a fixed frame screen with the center speaker below it. They want to keep the cost about $1,500. So what screen and projector should they go for? Well, Silver Ticket would be the easy answer to that, because
for a fixed frame white screen,
that's like less than $200 depending. I mean, because he's not sitting that far away, so he's probably going to go 90 something inches, maybe 120.
Yeah, he's gonna go 120. That's so. I mean, coming up later, we actually talked to Byron last week during our Hangout after party. So a lot of this got resolved, but I kind of wanted to use this as a springboard because other people are going to be wanting to look at projectors in this sort of price range. So it's a great opportunity to talk about some of the newest things that are just out there now. Because what we saw right around CES time were announcements from BenQ, ViewSonic, and Optima. All three of those companies have released $1,500 DLP projectors using the newest chip that they're doing that allows for 4K resolution. Now, it's really kind of an interesting chip. It's a little bit smaller, so it's 0.47 of an inch across is the size, which is one of the smaller chips they've made, and it's actually natively 1920 by 1080 resolution, but they shift it 4 times per frame.
Wow.
So it's going it's being shifted 4 times. So each pixel is getting used 4 times per frame to give you full 4K resolution. And that's how they brought the price down, by having this smaller, lower number of mirrors chip. Now, the BenQ is the one I would actually recommend, because we know BenQ stands behind their products.
Yeah.
We know when they say they're shipping them, they actually ship them.
Yeah.
And overall, they've been quite reliable. And they're also honest in their specs, because they say they've got this RGB color wheel, a 6x color wheel. And they're like, we can basically hit full Rec 709 color. We're compatible with an HDR signal, but we're not going to give you DCI-P3 color. We're definitely not going to give you Rec 2020 color. They're pretty honest about it. Now, Optima, for their part, said, oh, we're compatible with a Rec 2020 signal, and we're compatible with a DCI-P3 color.
Right, but what does that mean? Yeah,
they didn't full out claim that they're actually hitting it, because they're also using an RGB color wheel. I'm guessing it's very similar to BenQ's, because these are all very similar projects. Whereas ViewSonic came out and said, oh, we're doing full Rec 2020 color. I'm like, well, clearly you're not. Like, nobody is, so obviously you're not. So yeah, they're probably all far more similar than different. But yeah, it's an interesting opportunity, because these are the first 4K resolution projectors to hit the $1,500 mark. Now, over in LCD land, Epson has their Home Cinema 4000. It's now down to the $1,700 mark. That's a pretty compelling projector. Now, that's a 1920 by 1080 panel that's being wobbled once per frame to double the number of pixels, so it's not getting full 4K resolution.
Right.
It's their wobble solution, but it's compatible with a 4K signal, and that one actually can hit DCI-P3 color. So if you're more worried about the color than the resolution, then the Epson for a little bit more money.
But yeah. And that 120-inch silver ticket screen is $250 at Amazon right now.
There you go.
So. Yeah. All right. We already have an ending to this story, but because Byron joined the Hangout after party last week, so we discussed this a bit further. Turns out some of his budget was better put towards blocking the light coming through his windows, which wound up costing a bit more than anticipated. So he ended up buying the BenQ HT 2050, which is the one that you just literally recommended.
No, so I was talking about the 2550 is the new one. The HT 2050 was our good old 1920 by 1080 resolution, $700.
Jeez.
And it's killer. For that price, it is killer. So he went with that because he could save money. He can get the screen all together for under $1,000. Take the money he saved, put it towards blacking out his room, which is a great use of your budget. Right. And I 100% agree with that.
He posted on Twitter that it's a game changer. Size definitely matters. And he and his wife, his family, are very satisfied with the image quality. Even before the screen arrived, the image had been adjusted, calibrated at all. He found 9 feet from the 120-inch image to be just about right.
That's big.
That's big. That's big. You can see, like, he set this thing up and immediately took a picture of it based on this picture.
It's just like throwing it on the wall. Bottles. There's still stuff in the room there, but he's like, that looks pretty darn good for the money I spent on it. And I agree. I mean, that's why we loved recommending that projector. Like, okay, are there better projectors for way more money? Yes. There are projectors that get darker, that get brighter, that have higher resolution, that handle HDR, of course. But man, oh man, like what you're getting for that price, it's pretty impressive stuff.
All right. Rob M, which is not Rob H, which is you. Rob has a Denon AVR X6200W in his living room setup, but he will soon be moving it down to a basement where he'll be powering an Atmos setup. Once he moves it, he'll need to buy something else for the living room. It's only a 2.1 system, so channels aren't a concern, but he's gotten used to having AirPlay with the X6200. He needs a phono input for his turntable. He was considering either a B-stock X4300H or a 4400H, but they're probably overkill, right? So what do we suggest? He wants AirPlay specifically.
He wants AirPlay. He wants to have AirPlay.
I don't know what specific like 2-channel receivers would have AirPlay as well, but I mean, there's got to be some that are out there. I mean, I'm thinking of integrated amps, something like from maybe Emotiva, Cambridge Audio might have something for him. I would think so. I don't know if they might be overpriced though. Did he give us a price? But he's looking at X4300 at 4400.
Yeah, he's willing to go that high in price. Yeah, see, what's interesting is, so my very first thought, of course, was the X3300W, because that does have AirPlay. It still keeps Odyssey Multi-Q XT32,
right?
Which I imagine he was also using, considering he was looking at Denon's, but it doesn't have a phono input.
Well, I mean, you can buy that thing. Emotiva's got that little box thing, right?
They've got. I mean, there are plenty of phono preamps out there. Emotiva's is one of the less expensive, but still combined, that brings your price up to $680. Once you've put the phono preamp and the X3300 together, which is just shy of what you could get a Marantz SR6011, which is like the sister model to the X4300. Right. So you're sort of getting close to that $700 price range. On top of this, Rob is actually in Canada. So he's probably buying from Gibby's, who sells Denon B stock, or going elsewhere. So really the sticking point in my mind ends up being Odyssey. Right?
Really?
Because if you don't mind sacrificing XT32, then that opens up other possibilities, including like one good option that's actually considerably less expensive, Onkyo's TX-NR575.
Right.
A little bit older. You only need 2 channels of power, so who cares that it has fewer channels and all that. That has a phono input. That's like basically one of the least expensive full-fledged receivers that still does AirPlay, all that stuff. Still has HDMI inputs if you want HDMI sources, that type of thing. It has all of that for definitely one of the lowest prices. It's just you don't have the automatic setup. You have AccuEQ, which I would just turn off after, I'd let it set my distances and levels and then I'd turn it off. Yamaha also, you have to go to their RX-A760. So that's in their Avantage line up to the 760. That's still less expensive than like an X4300 though. And that does give you full Yamaha Y-POW with RSC, which is pretty darn good.
Right.
Pretty darn good. So the Yamaha could definitely be an alternative here, because that actually has a phono input built in. So I'm like, either if you really want XT32, I probably still wouldn't get the 4300. That does seem like overkill, especially at the Canadian price. So I'd probably get the 3300 plus a separate phono preamp. If I'm not going to do that, I'd probably strongly look at the Yamaha, the RX A760.
I gotta believe there's an integrated amp with AirPlay out there. I
didn't really research that, because I was still thinking I want some form of room correction built in. And myself, I still want HDMI inputs. Even if it's a music-only setup, I want HDMI inputs.
That can't be. I'm looking at something. This is stupid. This can't be right.
Well, he was saying living room system too, so I'm guessing this is connected to a TV, even though it's 2.1 speakers. Right, your integrated amp isn't going to have HDMI. You're not going to be able to switch any of your HDMI sources.
Yeah, there's one from Cambridge Audio. It was like $1,500. It's stupid.
That's overpriced.
Yeah, I figured it would be. Oh, here's one from Macintosh too. I'm sure that was.
I'm sure.
Very reasonably priced. It's all you feel almost guilty, and he may not care. He may not care about XT32 at all. He may be okay with going down to a lower price model. It
might have been strictly about that phono input.
Yeah, in which case we can maybe change our recommendations based on that. Steve on Twitter. Steve has dual SVS subwoofers and AV Rant recommendation, and the way he has them positioned, if he plays a bass sweep through them both at the same time, the sweep sounds pretty darn even and linear throughout. Steve also has a Marantz SR7010 receiver, which offers Odyssey Multi-EQ XC32 with sub EQ HT, but it's old enough that it cannot use the Odyssey editor app, which means it's like a year old. After running the auto setup program and trying both the reference and flat target curves, Steve has noticed that what sounds like a 10 dB dip right around 70 hertz. If he disables Odyssey, the dip is gone. First of all, why would Odyssey create a dip in his frequency response when it sounds fine before running Odyssey? And second, what can he do to fix it? Since he can't change the target curve manually, does he need to invest in a mini DSP? I mean, he's just hearing this, right?
He's hearing it, but he's playing the sweep. He's like, I play the sweep, just the subs are where they are, and I just play the sweep through them. Everything sounds fine. Then I run through, I've done Odyssey, and I hear a dip in the sweep.
Right. It sounds like a microphone placement issue when he was running Odyssey would be my first bet, would be to rerun Odyssey a couple times and see what else.
Sure.
You know.
I'm going to blame sub EQ HT on this.
Are you really?
I'm going to, because even though Gene at Audioholic stands behind it, and even though what they're doing with sub EQ HT is overall better than most of the independent subwoofer setup type of things, I still don't fully agree with it, because they're attempting to time align your subwoofers, right? So if you have one sub at the front of your room and one sub at the back of your room, and the sub at the back of your room is physically closer to the microphone than the one at the front of the room, it's still just using the first measurement position to set the distances for everything. So it's going to give a shorter distance to the sub that's at the back of your room to the sub that's at your front of your room. And it shouldn't really do that. Now, sometimes that's going to work out, but sometimes it isn't. So given that that's the only way it knows to set the distances, is to just time align them, just brute force time align them, and then level match them, which is fine, and then EQ them together in mono, you can end up with, because of the different distance settings, it's gone and created a null or created a cancellation that isn't there if you just leave the distances alone.
So he could change the distances and then rerun the calibration?
I mean, one thing you could do is actually leave the calibration as is and just manually change the distances, trial and error. Keep listening to the sweep, because that might work. The other thing you could do is just run the subs in mono. Don't say you have two independent subs. Just say you have one sub and run it in mono.
Yeah, you could do that.
Because that'll set one distance, because you do still want the subs time aligned overall with all the rest of your speakers, but maybe just not independently. Because if what's happened is exactly as he described, he set them up, leaving them alone, playing them in mono, everything sounds fine, then that means you want only one distance applied to both subs. Right. So I would just run them in mono. That, by what he's described, that ought to fix the problem. There should be no need to buy anything additional for this. I'm going to blame
splitter, maybe.
Yeah. I'm going to blame two different distance settings as having created this.
Ryan found our podcast when Home Theater Geeks got canceled. So, yay. I mean, boo for them, but yay for us. So he had to search for another podcast to replace it. He says he's listened to 12 episodes in 4 days so far. That's about all you can listen to. I think you run out of time after that. So we've been basically playing his ear the whole time that he's been working on this new theater. This is Ryan's first house. The space he's working with is overall roughly 14 feet wide, 27 feet long, and 10 feet high. It's nice. But it's irregularly shaped with a bulkhead, staggered wall of windows, and a sloped ceiling in places. He wants to dedicate the back portion of this room for virtual reality, and the entrance is 42 inches wide with no door at the moment. All right, 42 inches wide. You can definitely get a subwoofer through that door. What should he do to cover the entrance? He wants to pressurize this room with his dual SVS PB16 Ultra subs.
You can do it once we have a door, that's for sure.
Yeah, that ain't gonna be a problem. With the entrance being 42 inches wide, he can't simply install a standard door. Should he get a custom door? Do something to the entrance frame, or should he consider a sliding barn style door? We talked about those barn style doors. I am of the opinion that in order to get one that will adequately seal and not vibrate, which your PBs
not
will
rattle
do to that door for sure. you'll probably have to spend a lot more money than it would cost to do just about anything else. I mean, a custom door is going to be awfully large.
Yeah,
I mean, you could
42-inch
do
door.
that. I mean, it's going to be a big door.
Yeah, what says you can't take down the current casing?
Yeah.
Put in a little bit of extra framing on one or both sides to get it down to a standard 36-inch door, and put in a 36-inch door.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to suggest something a little bit different. And the reason for this is you so rarely have the opportunity to have such a large entrance to a room, much less a theater. I would install like almost like a temporary partition that is essentially like, it might look like a little door on one side that is removable in some way. So for example, you see this all the time in like shopping centers and stuff like that. They'll have doors that close to a central pole, and that pole is removable so that you can open up both doors and get really big things into the store when you need to. So what I'm suggesting is that you put like, I mean, you might even buy like a accordion door style shaped door, the ones that you might have in a closet, and just install that in such a way so that maybe it's got locks that lock up into the top and the bottom, and then you can pull those down and then pull that whole thing out, but then you put the door jamb on that so that you're closing to that. I mean, it ends up being a custom door in essence, but it's not a custom like a big 42-inch door, whatever it is. You have a normal 30 whatever doors are, 36 inches, 36 inches.
36-inch is that's one of the options. There's 32, 36,
right. I get a 36-inch or a 32-inch door. Get this other part that essentially you can pop in and pop out, and so that you would still end up, and that way when you sell the house at some point in the future, if you ever do, you can show the buyer, hey, I did this, that we had a normal door here, but if you want that full opening, you just pull them both out, and now you've got that full opening, nice flow between rooms or whatever. I know it's a little weird, but that's what I would do.
If it were me, I'd pop off the current casings, I'd build out the frame of the door a little bit and throw a 36-inch door in there. I'd change the frame.
For the overall layout and aesthetics, he's thinking of putting a 120-inch Screen Innovations fixed frame screen directly on the front wall. He plans to sit 10 feet away, which will create a 47-degree field of view, not inch. Then he'd like to have a countertop with bar stools directly behind his theater seats, leaving the back of the room open for his VR setup. He wants to put motorized shades over the windows, install a fiber optic star feel ceiling over a 9-foot by 6-foot portion of his theater area. Walls and carpet will be gray. The rest of the ceiling will be matte black. Does that sound all good in general? Should he maybe opt for black velvet on the front wall instead of paint? You don't have... Okay. Personal preference, Starfields get old real fast, I think. That's
money that is like cool at first, and the first couple of times you have people over, you're like, hey, look at this, and like, oh yeah, neat, and then you turn it off and never turn it on again.
I mean, if you really love it and you're gonna lie there on the ground and pretend that you're outside when you could literally just go outside and see actual stars, if this is something that you really want, hey man, I'm not judging you for it. I'm saying that if it's the idea that you think sounds cool, let me clue you in that it sounds cooler than it actually is, and that I would rather you just not spend that money. Could you velvet the front wall? You could. There's no reason why you couldn't. But what you really need in this room, and the thing that you have not talked about one iota, is room treatments.
Yes.
You've got to put some room treatments in here. The color gray, fine, that's great.
Oh yeah, gray and black, fantastic.
Great. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think it's weird to paint walls black in a house, and I think that when at some point in the future, when you are trying to sell this house, people are going to think that it is some sort of dungeon in there if you do that. You paint the walls gray, no one's got a problem. But if the ceiling is black, I mean, if you want your ceiling to be black, I would take a acoustic fabric. You got 10-foot ceilings in here, and I would just put a layer of fabric up there, and then go ahead and underneath that layer of fabric put acoustic panels up the wazoo, just to, you know what I mean? I mean, that way
Or
you
I mean, it
get
doesn't
the
have to be
black.
panels. It can just be insulation if you're going to put fabric over them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, insulation up there. But to me, if you want to have black, like that whole area black, don't paint it.
Mm.
Use fabric, and then behind the fabric, basically build little false walls. You can put your speakers, you can put your I mean, then you've really created something there. You know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've no nothing against the black velvet, but yeah, I fully agree. If it's gonna be a fabric covering anyway, why not kill two birds with one stone? Let that fabric cover up insulation that acts as your acoustic treatment. You want that on your front wall anyway.
Right.
So
And
yeah.
you've got the space in here, man. Just build. I mean, you could build a little false wall up there, and then just
Mhm.
build in a little bit. I mean, you're basically a 2x4.
Yeah.
Is basically what you're building in. You're building
Yeah.
it. You're taking and you're building a 2x4 wall. You're covering the whole thing with fabric.
Yeah.
Black fabric. You're sticking. You're just putting it up in place, and then behind that you can put your speakers. You can put your insulation. You're not having to buy panels. I mean, you're just throwing up insulation in there. I
Yeah.
mean, to me, that's what I would do. That way,
Absolutely.
you don't have to paint anything.
Yeah.
This is more expensive than paint, depending on the paint that you buy. But in the end, when you take it down, it's like you did nothing to that room. You're just covering up a couple of holes in the wall, and you're not installing speakers anywhere. That's what I would do.
Yeah, and he's already got this screen that's 120 inches and it's 16 by 9. So normally when people are really concerned about having velvet around their screen, it's when they're going to be zooming in on, say, a 2.35:1 screen and having some light spill above and below,
Right.
and they really don't want to see any of that light spill. That's where having the black velvet around your screen matters a bit more. In your case, that's not going to be happening. So,
Right.
so yeah, having actual velvet isn't super important. But black fabric over a little false wall with insulation behind it, perfect.
Yeah, and you could do that walls and ceilings.
Yeah.
Do the whole thing if you wanted to. Have a little cave back there. For gear, he already has a Sony VW285 ES 4K projector and the 120-inch screen we already mentioned. His receiver is a Denon AVR X6300H, and he already owns a pair of Klipsch Reference 2 towers and a pair of Klipsch Reference surrounds. He like a full 7.2.4 setup. So what should he do in terms of his speakers? He could get a matching Klipsch center, another pair of surrounds, and 4 Klipsch in-ceiling speakers, or he could keep what he has, but go with different brands for the remaining positions, or he could start from scratch and not have any Klipsch speakers at all. He's mostly considering getting something different for the in-ceiling speakers. At $300 each, the Klipsch in-ceiling seem a little pricey. What would we suggest? Okay, well, if you go with the fabric thing, it opens up a lot of options for you because you don't have to have an actual in wall. You don't have to have an in ceiling. You just can, you can actually just like, I'm going to lower this down until the speaker fits up there, and I'm just going to throw it up there. So with Klipsch, you run into the problem that Klipsch have a distinctive sound, and they are very, very easy to drive, which means that you can't just pair them with any old speaker. You have to pair them with the speaker that is also easy to drive, which normally means horn loaded. Could you go with other speakers? I mean, there are options out there. There's the horn speakers from HSU, which would probably be okay.
I mean, what's interesting is the in-ceiling speakers from Klipsch aren't horn loaded, so
right.
That's it's a whole. It's kind of weird what's going on. I mean, the main question is: are you happy with the Klipsch 2 towers and the Klipsch reference surrounds that you already have? Because if you're like, I already love those speakers, then I'm like, fill out the rest of your floor level speakers with the matching Klipsch reference surrounds.
Right. Okay.
I see no real reason not to do that. Myself, I was thinking the very same thing. Instead of going in ceiling, I would actually, Klipsch actually has their own great solution. It's fairly new. It's in their reference series. It's under their Dolby Atmos speakers, which means it has the little angle to it and it can be used as an upward firing speaker. But they also say right on their page, you can go ahead and use this as a wall-mounted or a ceiling-mounted speaker as well. It's similar to the Prime Elevation speakers from SVS. It's got the little angle built in. It's got the wall bracket built right in on the back. So you could just mount those on the ceiling. Then you're going to have timbre match, efficiency match. It's all Klipsch. Those go for $400 a pair, so you're saving a little bit of money too. You're not punching big holes in your ceiling.
Right.
And to me, that all works. That all just makes sense. It all just matches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the R14SA.
Now, if you're not totally in love with those Klipsch speakers, we can give you some recommendations.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to go down that path.
Oh, we're not doing it right now. We're started late and everything else, so we're not going to do it right now. But you cut back to us if you're like,
yeah,
I actually do want some recommendations for some speakers. We've got your back there. Don't worry.
Yeah, I mean
about
the way he wrote in, it sounds like he's pretty happy with his current Klipsch speakers. He's just like, I'm going to have to buy more anyway. So yeah.
Don't let anybody tell you different. If you're happy with your speakers, people are like, well, Klipsch this and Klipsch that. I don't care.
I like
what I feel about Klipsch. Should have no bearing on how you feel about Klipsch. You like them. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. And believe me, you're going to like them more if you put some insulation in this room, because they won't be quite so bouncing around.
They work nicely with that. So yeah, I'd go with the on-ceiling solution here. Brings the price down, keeps everything else, matched. Yeah.
Brandon is ready to dive in and buy his first ever projector. He's thinking 120-inch screen. He wants to spend $2,500 for the projector and the screen. He could probably push it to $3,000 if he has to. His main concern is that he'll be used in the living room, not a dedicated theater. There'll be lots of ambient light, especially during daytime. Is it realistic to expect to get a good picture, something similar to a 70-inch Vizio M series TV under these conditions? Could gray or high gain ambient light rejecting screens plus a really bright projector get him there? Or should he give up on the projector idea and consider a 75 to 85-inch flat panel instead? What should he buy? I am going to be absolutely dead serious, Brandon. Lots of ambient light and projectors are not a good combination.
Yeah.
I've seen some absolutely phenomenal light rejecting screens, and they in zero way compares to a direct view TV. It's just not. We're not even close to there yet. I mean, I don't care what kind of a light can you have coming out of for your projector. It's just not. It's never going to look as bright as that. I don't think you're going to be happy.
Yeah, I mean, even at CES, Hisense was showing their $13,000 Screen Innovations Black Diamond screen with their ultra short throw laser based projector that can put out 2,800 lumens. So it's a foot away from this high cost ambient light rejecting screen, and they were showing it at CES, and people's comment was, "That's pretty good." That's pretty good.
$13,000 for the screen alone. That's not bad.
It's like, and they were, of course, what were they showing? Sports.
Right.
Because, I mean, that makes sense. What are you probably going to be watching during the day with a setup like that where what matters most is size? Probably going to be sports. In which case, you're not noticing that the black levels are still very nothing black. It's not black. Right. It's not even close to black, that the contrast is still washed out. Because if you're watching a football game with, a big green field and players in bright uniforms and lots of bright lighting, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty okay for $13,000.
So, who were we talking about that was coming out with like an 85-inch screen? Was it TCL?
So Sony, their new X900F series,
right?
That's going to have an 85-inch. Is it going to be under $3,000? Probably not.
Sony, I don't think so.
The 75-inch should be around $2,500, and that's going to be there. There were some other 85-inch announcements, though. It's as though 85-inchers are coming back in a little bit of way this year. Yeah, I mean, I can't wholeheartedly get behind a projector in this scenario. I mean, the problem is there are going to be...
I can't get behind it at all, much less wholeheartedly.
There are going to be the people who would set up, like, say, Elite Screens has a pretty good ambient light rejecting screen, which for the budget he said is about the right price point, because you're $1,500 is going to the screen on this.
Right.
So now you've left yourself $1,000 for projector. Can you get a pretty bright 1080p projector for that? Yeah, you can. But man, oh man, like it's not going to look like your Vizio M series. It is not.
Not even close.
Just full stop. It's just not. Yeah.
Look for a 75 to 85-inch direct view screen.
75-inch, 100% you can get for this price.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't think you can do a projector.
Yeah.
Adam has a 7.1.4 setup with power sound audio MT110 mains, HSU HB1 Mark IIs as the surround and surround backs, Energy Take Classic satellite speakers as the top fronts, and Take Energy Center speakers as the top rear. Center.
Yeah, so
Whatever.
there's the Take Classics, so there's the little satellite bookshelves, and then there is a center that's a, woofer tweeter, woofer design. So he's got two of the centers, those are his top backs, and he's got two of the little satellites as his top fronts.
All right. So they were I guess these were the extra speakers he had lying around when he started getting into Atmos a couple of years ago. Now he's moved the top front satellite speakers to a second setup that is using all Energy Take Classic speakers. So he's got two Take Centers speakers still installed as top rears, but he needs something to replace his top fronts. You need something to replace your top rears too, anyways. But let's go. He can't decide if he should get more Take Classics or the monoprice clones, or upgrade to something else. He also has a $100 Best Buy gift card, so he was looking the Def Tech Pro Monitor 800s. He couldn't find any specs regarding their dispersion, though. About $125 per speaker is what he'd like to pay. He'll pay more if he would really hear a significant difference over the Energy Takes, but not just for the warm feeling of only more expensive speakers. So should he stick with the Energy monoprice, try out the Def Tech, something else? If he doesn't go Energy, does he have to buy four so they match the top rears again, or does not really matter? He's fine with the Take speakers as its overheads, but then again, he's never heard anything else, so he's had the itch to try upgrading them, but he'd like our assurance to be worth it.
I mean, I kind of want to look at his other speakers in this scenario.
Power Sound Audio MT. I don't know those speakers.
What the Power Sound Audios, I mean, those are very high efficiency, 95 dB efficiency. That's the big 10-inch woofer with the big horn-loaded tweeter. Those are all about high efficiency. And then the HSU horn-loadeds are high efficiency too.
Right. So this is where I guess I'm losing it, is the surround back mains, HSU, and the satellite speakers as top front. So he's at 7.4. What are the mains?
The mains are the Power Sound Audios.
Okay. And HSUs are the surrounds and the surround backs. So
yes.
he's looking for top speakers.
Yeah.
He wants to spend $125 per speaker. Can you make $150 per speaker? Because you could
get more of the HSUs.
You could get the HSUs, or you could get the Klipsch ones that you just talked about.
Yes.
The reference ones were $200.
Well, actually, if you go for the ones that are not the little angled ones, if you just get their basic reference series bookshelf speaker, Best Buy, which he said, has them actually on. So normally those are $250 a pair, which is exactly $125 per speaker. They're on sale right now for $200 for the pair. So you could go Klipsch.
I would go for those. I'll be honest with you. I think you should get rid of those Takes Energy things back there. I mean, they're probably fine.
Oh, yeah. For overheads, they're probably fine. I mean, what I actually would like you to do before buying anything is take your surround back speakers and temporarily put them above you to see if having the HSUs, because you're saying you've never tried anything else. You don't know if the changing of the speakers and upgrading the speakers is going to be worth it sound wise.
Right.
Try just running a 5.2.2 system temporarily by taking your surround backs and putting them up there to see if the HSU's up there.
You don't need surround backs at all, because
you might discover many things. Yes.
You might discover many things with this little test. I am wholeheartedly endorsing this test, because I think that many people have surround backs that do not need surround backs, and that they could when you move those speakers overhead, you may find that you have plenty of sounds coming from behind you, and now you've got speakers above you, and you spent $0.
Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, it's going to tell you if having the timbre-matched, horn-loaded speakers above you is a worthwhile upgrade. And if it is, you might say, you know what, I'll spend a little bit extra just so I have HSUs all around. Or you might go for these Klipsches to stay on budget, but still get the horn-loaded and high efficiency. I would not buy the Def Techs. That doesn't make any sense to me. Those are like odd man out in all of this. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me. But I would do the experiment that involves you spending no money first.
Yeah. I'm for that. Nick got excited by all the various news surrounding OLED TVs at CES. There was an 88-inch prototype because of reasons. The rollable 65-inch prototype. But most exciting to Nick was the simply seeing more brands than ever announced plans to release OLED TVs, plus LG's announcements that they're building another huge production facility in China.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think are the chances that this will all come together to form the perfect mid-level projection setup? Increased production should bring lower prices. A rollable OLED could replace a motorized screen, and the larger 85-inch size plus sizes could complete with projection. Could all that come together for under $10,000? Could LCD
so it do
anything to compete? Well,
LCDs aren't going to get rollable. That's not going
to happen. I mean, we're seeing right now a movement towards larger screens, but this this fluctuates. This comes and goes. I am unconvinced that we are going to see a large push towards this 75-inch plus screen size.
Well, I mean, all of the 8K screens at CES were 85 inches or larger, and that seems to be... So if 8K is a thing, then yeah, we're going to see 85-inch screens. I don't have much doubt of that. They ain't going to be cheap. They ain't going to be cheap. Does it need to roll? I mean, the rolling OLED, Lord knows if we're actually going to be able to buy that anytime soon, and that is not going to be cheap.
No.
Although, I mean, I get, part of the attraction to some projection setups is you can have the screen, it's, flush mounted in the ceiling. You hit the button, down comes the screen seemingly out of nowhere. It disappears when you're not using it. And an OLED that's rollable could do the same thing. That is very cool. It's not going to be cheap.
I don't see that. I mean, let's put it this way. Yes, we're going to see all this stuff happen, but it just might not be in our lifetimes. I mean, it might be I believe that at some point in the future, it's going to be like Black Mirror, where every surface in your house is a screen. You know what I mean? That can be adjusted to fit whatever your needs are at that time. Or it's all going to be virtual reality. It's going to be in our heads, and it's going to be the same thing. I don't see this happening in the near future, and I don't see direct view overtaking projectors anytime soon in the larger sizes. It's just not cost effective. I would love to have a 120-inch direct view TV. I would love that.
Well, I mean, they had that 146-inch micro LED, and I mean, eventually, that we're gonna have that.
Yes, I just don't see it happening in $10,000. No.
Right. I mean, these little tiles that you can stitch together to basically make any size that you want, rollable screens. I mean, it's all gonna happen. But the way I would put this to Nick is, if you were thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to get a nice projection screen and a JVC or a Sony 4K projector this year or next year, I would not hold off on that plan because you're thinking gigantic rollable flat panels are going to be affordable within the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
that's not what I'm seeing. It's still a good time to invest in a projector. Maybe 10 years from now, I could see that. Like an 85-inch rolling OLED in 10 years for under $10,000. Yeah, I could see that. But that's 10 years.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
Heath needs to make a 65-foot run with a subwoofer cable. Is this too long? Should you be worried about picking up interference? And in general, what is the maximum length an unbalanced subwoofer cable should be run without any concerns? Provided that you bought a quality subwoofer cable with good shielding, a couple of 100 feet, I would think would be.
Yeah, I'd go up to 300 feet.
Yeah, 300 feet.
Yeah, 300 feet, I'd want to switch over to balanced for sure. But as long as I have a good quality, like if you got a Belden based, from Blue Jeans cable, like
I would not buy the world's cheapest cable, but not for that, with something that's got like some good, solid RF shielding and EMI shielding.
65 feet?
I'm not worried about that.
That's nothing. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, don't get something horrible, but I mean, a monoprice 65-foot RCA cable, totally fine. Absolutely fine. 65 feet, nothing to worry about.
All right, last we got Shane. Shane has a bone to pick with our... Yes, I told you, I've got other stuff to do. I'm still working. I gotta, when I leave here, I've got work to do. It's going to take me like an hour, and it's 11 p.m. right now. And I have to get up early, and I got to go to my son's middle school and judge some history contest. I have no idea what I'm doing. It's going to be a debacle. Shane has a bone to pick with our terminology. We constantly refer to dual subwoofers as 5.2 or 7.2 or 7.2.4, blah, blah, blah. Shane has always believed that the point number referred to the number of discrete channels having individual audio signals addressed to them. Dual subs are still a mono signal, so they should be referred to as a 0.1, regardless of how many there actually are in the room, right? So what's the deal? Is he right to be touching under his breath when we say 0.2, or should we be touching at him for being pedantic? We didn't come up with this crap, dude. It's not our fault. I mean, why are you tutting at me? You think I came up with this? I didn't come up with this. I mean, we're counting the number of speakers. In every other instance, we're counting the number of speakers that you have. If you played mono through all those speakers, if you put it on party mode and it was just mono coming through all those speakers, is it now a 1.0 system? No, it's still a 7.2.4 system. We're counting the number of speakers. That's what we came up with. If we didn't do that, when we'd have to say, I have a 5. First of all, you would never say 0.1. You would say 7.2, 5.2, or 5.4 for the overheads, and then you say with 2 subwoofers afterwards.
Right.
Or with a sub, with, because all of them have subwoofer outputs, so you have to indicate how many subwoofers that you had. That'd be the way you would end up doing it. So you're just skipping that step. I mean, it's not my fault. I didn't come up with this crap. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think either of us should be tutting at either, because, I mean, Shane is correct in the fully technical sense. Right. What those numbers were supposed to mean are channels. You're yes. Absolutely right about that, Shane. And yes, the very proper way to say things would be, I have a 7.1.4 system with 4 subwoofers, rather than saying I have a 7.4.4 system.
Yes.
That is technically correct. I absolutely agree. However, it's inefficient or we're just lazy. Like when we're just describing, like when we say Byron has a 7.4.4 system, well, he doesn't. You're right. He has a 7.1.4 system, but he has 4 subs. So are we going to, every time we say that, are we going to say 7.1.4 with 4 subs? Or we're just going to go 7.4.4 and everyone goes, okay, he's got 4 subs, right? Like when you're writing it, when you're saying it, it's a little faster. We're a little lazy. So there's a bit of that going on there, but there's a little bit more nuance to it as well. Because let's take the example, like going back to those Denons we were talking about that have sub EQHT. They're not actually sending the exact same signal to both subs. Both subs are getting the same frequency signal, but they're getting different distance and level settings. Those things are set independently when you have sub EQHT. Let's say you have a mini DSP, and you've set individual distances, levels, and EQs for each of 4 subwoofers. What do you call that? Now, technically, you're still correct. The original signal that came from your disk or your content, whatever, was still 7.1.4. Or it's not even I mean, you can't even do that because there are no .4 channels. Where did that come from? Those are objects.
Those are object-based, that's right.
So it starts getting muddy. So I mean,
then when you do the crossover too, I mean, you're getting those are discrete. So now should we call them 7.7 because each subwoofer is also getting whatever's below 80 or 60 or 120 hertz that comes into it, or maybe it's 14 because there's 2 subwoofers and they're all.
So I don't tut at Shane for being pedantic about it because I like the nitty gritty details.
You were speaking to the pedantic guy.
That's right
here. He loves pedanticness.
It took me a while to come to terms with just going, you know what, 4K and Ultra HD are going to be used interchangeably because they aren't the same thing. One is 4096 by 2160 and the other is 3840 by 2160. Those are 2 different numbers and they have 2 different names. But what am I going to do? Click under my tongue every time someone says I got a 4K TV and I'm like, well, actually you have an Ultra HD TV. Like, I could, but that's a losing argument.
It's like when I was talking to that guy a long time ago and he kept talking to me about his HDMI cable.
HDMI.
And I was like, HDMI, huh?
I say OLED. That's not correct. It's an organic light emitting diode. It's an OLED, but we acronymize it. It's the OLED. Or some people don't even say that. They say something else, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So who we got left over? All the questions that we have left over, except for Ted's, are very short. So we will be burning through them next week, and we'll be caught
We
up very
will.
quickly. So who do
We
we have left?
have Josh, Vince, Chris, Roy, and Ted, as we mentioned. Yeah, those are all the folks we'll get to next week. Sorry about how things played out this week. It wasn't our intention by any means. It's just that's how it goes sometimes. And we're a podcast, and we still made a podcast this week. That's what matters.
That's right. We want to thank our special listeners of the week, especially the ones that have donated money. We want to thank James and Luke for going to www.avrant.com and clicking on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee link and leaving us a PayPal donation. We also want to thank Rob, Josh, and our other 49 patrons over at patreon.com who are supporting the podcast financially using the Patreon service. Thank you, James, Luke, Rob, Josh, and the other 49 patrons.
For sure. James and Luke, thanks so much for those donations. Heading over to avrant.com, buying the click on the Buy Us a Cup of Coffee button. Stumbling over words. Rob and Josh, thanks for being patrons. Thanks so much to everyone on patreon.com. That number actually did tick up this week. It's just we cut things off on the Sundays. So that's where I'm going, that we still had 51 patrons at that time. And then you
Ryan, Robert, Jason, and Steve all talked us up to manufacturers. So I want to thank all of you for supporting the podcast in your way.
For sure. Ryan, Robert, Jason, Steve, thank you for supporting AV Rant.
All right. For everybody here at AV Rant, including Daisy, who's the most important member of this podcast as far as I'm concerned, my name's Tom Andry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.